guys, welcome here. If you're new here, my name's Bethany. I'm the girl behind Well Love Knits. We do a lot of knitting content here on this channel, whether that's a knit and chat like we're gonna do today, or a knitting podcast, crafty vlogs. I'm a maker and I really love sharing that passion making DIY with you guys. And if you're into that kind of content, definitely consider subscribing to stick around so then you know whenever I upload those type of videos. Like I said, today we're going to be doing a knit and chat, and I just wanted to take some time to sit down and chat with you guys because I'm currently today 38 weeks pregnant. Yeah, 38 weeks pregnant. And soon I'm going to be welcoming a newborn baby into my life, and I don't know how often I will be uploading and connecting with you guys. So I wanted to take this time to get one last knit and chat in because I really enjoy these. You guys really enjoy these. And I have a new whip that I need to show off. I need to document that this whip has been started because honestly, it's already just flying off the needles. So let me get into that portion. I'll tell you a little bit about what's on my needles right here. This is something that I've wanted to knit up for baby. It's another baby knit. And actually, I think it's going to be the last baby knit that I will be able to manage before baby arrives. Or I will be still knitting on this when baby arrives because who knows when he's going to be ready. So this is something that has been on my list, my to knit list for quite some time. And shockingly, I just kept putting it off. And I don't know why, because this was probably the pattern that I was most excited to knit up when I first announced that I was pregnant and announced all of the items that I wanted to knit baby. This is Carl's cardigan by Petite Knit, which is a really beautiful cardigan. You can probably already see. There's a lot of beautiful detail in this cardigan, and it's actually one of her older patterns. I don't know if it's as well known as, people know the seaside sweater, they know the Friday sweater, the Sunday suit, but Carl's cardigan isn't something that I see a lot of people knitting up, and I think it's because it's one of her earlier patterns. But it's very familiar to me, very similar to one pattern that she recently released for adults, which is the Jenny jacket. So it has that same smocking stitch detail, and wow, it's so much fun to knit. And it's pretty addictive and much easier than I think it might come across if you're like me and sometimes get a little intimidated by stitch patterns. For whatever reason, I don't really think that it's necessarily something that I should ever be intimidated about because most of the time it's not as big of a deal as it seems. So this may look a little intimidating, but I'm happy to report that it's a piece of cake. It's been a breeze to knit up. I really just cast this on maybe a day or two ago, and look at the progress. But that also has to do with the needles. This is on 4mm needles compared to the usual 3mm, 2.5mm that I've been knitting up for baby knits. So what's funny is that while I was most excited to cast this one on, this is my last baby knit of the list that I had put together. I didn't knit up everything that I had intended on knitting, but that list was very ambitious anyway. However, this one was definitely one that I wanted to have because it just is, like I said, a very beautiful stitch pattern, and it just looks like a really cozy cardigan for a little baby. So, I mean, I'm just surprised that this is the last one, but there was a couple of reasons for that. The first reason I kind of alluded to in the sense that I wasn't really sure if I wanted something very complex to work on. I was perceiving this as something that I would really have to be more active with mentally instead of, just going through the motions and knitting up stockinette in the round, which is kind of my default. I always lean towards those patterns just because I find them to be the most relaxing. But then also there's a fine line between relaxing and boring. And I think with stockinette stitch, yeah, it's easy to zone out. You don't have to look down. I can just knit in the round and not really think twice about it. But surprisingly, I really do, even though I tell myself that those are my favorite projects, I've really enjoyed lately something a little bit more complex, which is a lesson that I'm learning from these baby knits, because I am being a little bit more adventurous. Like the Ingrid sweater baby, for example, that was one where I wasn't really sure if I was going to enjoy it because I had to pay attention so much to the stitch patterns. The stitch patterns were changing very frequently. I had a chart to follow, but I actually really, really enjoyed that because it brought a new dimension to my making process. And, you know, it really wasn't as complex as I was making it out to be. And I was just, I psyched myself out a little bit. And at the end, I was addicted to the project, that I was so happy when it was finished, but I could continue and do more. And I wanted a project similar to that. So I don't know why I keep telling myself that the more complex stitch patterns are not for me. It's not that I discourage myself from casting those kind of projects on. It's just that I hesitate. So I need to remember this in the future, because this is another one of those examples where I cast it on and then I've been addicted to it and I've just been wanting to knit on this and nothing else. And soon, actually, I'm going to be done with the body, and while I'll continue in the smocking pattern, it's just already flying off. So I know that I would want to knit something similar in the future. So I need to remind myself that for knits that I want to take on, like not to be afraid of things with complex stitches. Just because it looks a little complex doesn't actually mean that it's going to be so involved. And maybe that will actually bring a new dimension or a new sense of creative energy that I am craving in my projects, instead of being so difficult and so challenging. Does that make sense? So that's one reason why I kind of stalled on this project. Secondly, it was actually the fiber. So I didn't mention what fiber I was using, and I'm actually using the recommended fiber in the pattern, or one of them. I purchased this, excuse me, I purchased this actually right when I made that list of baby knits I wanted to knit up. I did a little yarn haul, and this was some of the yarn that I received. So this is Senna's Garn Alpaca Wool. It's alpaca and wool. I don't know what wool is, but I'm assuming it's some type of wool. And I really loved this taupey color. I thought it was going to go really nicely with anything in baby's wardrobe. Not that it really needs to match, because babies can wear whatever the heck they want. But I just really liked the neutral color, and since it was recommended in the pattern, I purchased the skeins that were needed. It was fine. But actually, when I received it in the mail, I got a little hesitant because, as you can see, I don't know at a distance if you can see, but it's a little fuzzy. There's just little fibers that, they don't shed too easily, but they can shed. And I don't know, I was a little concerned about that. I was like, is that going to be something that's good for babies? Is that, you might breathe that in. Is that something that's going to be safe? And so then I put this yarn aside and was potentially trying to find other type of fiber to source for this project. And then I ended up getting other yarn, and I didn't really like it for the project in the end. And so then I kind of just sat with this yarn, and I've been in a little bit of a let's organize before baby gets here type of mentality. And I saw this yarn in my stash again, and I was like, why am I doing this to myself? I do this a lot, where it's like I purchase yarn for a project and then I'm not 100% happy with it. So then I just keep it in my stash. And I don't really want that. You guys know I want to stash bust. I don't really want to have a really large stash. So I just decided, you know what? It's recommended in the pattern. I don't know why I'm second guessing it. She would have removed it if it was not something that was suitable. I'm going to cast on with this yarn. I'm going to continue. I'm going to work this project up like I intended with this yarn. And then I was even doing some research online, and I don't really think that alpaca is harmful for babies. In fact, I saw quite a few arguments as to why it's good. You know, like it has the antiseptic properties, like antimicrobial. I don't think that's the right one. Anyway, just like wool, it's naturally like self-cleaning and doesn't get as dirty as easily. And then it's also very soft. And yeah, the only argument against it for babies was mainly for maintenance and care, you know, like it would be kind of difficult to maintain with a baby just because, you know, if they get it dirty, you have to hand wash it, that sort of thing. It's not necessarily machine washable or machine washer safe. But anyway, I'm working up, and I have worked up a lot of projects with non-superwash wool. So I'm gonna have to be doing that anyway. So I don't really mind the care aspect of it. And then also for peace of mind for myself. I was just thinking, you know what? Baby's gonna be under a lot of supervision when he wears this cardigan. So if it comes to the fact that it's gonna be a problem, I will know immediately. And if this just becomes a little cardigan for like a milestone picture, then so be it, because I'm really enjoying knitting it up. I think the result's gonna be very, very cute. And as long as I get one picture of him in it, I think that's a win. So who knows if this will actually be very practical for baby, but it will be definitely a special occasion outfit for him. And I'm totally okay with that too. That's not my normal way of knitting things up, but I'm resigned to that fact. I think I'm okay with that. So yeah, that's the whole spiel on what I'm working on. I think I will be able to manage before baby gets here, but then again, he might be listening right now and he wants to prove me wrong. Who knows? But just the way that this is working up, I feel like it's just flying off the needles, and we will be able to finish it up, which is great. And that means that I've really made a good dent in the yarn that I purchased for my baby knits. Like I said, I didn't knit up everything that I wanted to knit up, but I think I made a lot of good items, and I really want to share those with you guys. So once I finish this one, if I can manage, I do want to do like an overview of everything I made for baby. So look out for that video. If it doesn't come, that means I had baby and this sweater isn't finished and I didn't have the time to, sit down and go over all of that. But we'll see. Who knows? We still have technically some weeks to go. They don't really say, like, for first-time moms. It's all over the place. Baby comes when baby comes. There's no way of saying if he's going to come early or come late. We just have to wait and see. But I'm feeling pretty good right now. Maybe a little tired. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I barely got any sleep last night, so I might look a little exhausted. But in all, I'm just happy that the weather's getting a little bit cooler, and we're in September now, and fall is here. It will be here soon. In my head, it's here. I've been very much looking forward to fall lately, so I'm very excited that September has finally arrived. But that was like a whole long intro, much longer, I think, than I intended it to be. Today, I wanted just to cover some of the other questions that you guys had asked me over on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. I feel like it's been a while. I asked you guys if you had any questions for me because I wanted to do some Q&A style knit and chats. And I got a lot of questions specifically about expat life, which I guess is understandable, fair enough, because that is probably one of the more interesting things about me. The fact that I'm an American living here in Belgium. So I wanted to cover a little bit of that. And then I got some other questions too that I'll cover, and maybe I'll round it out with some podcast recommendations, things that I will be watching, people I will be watching while I'm gone with my baby. While I won't be uploading very often, maybe you will discover some new channels to check out. You know, it's actually funny, the first knit and chat that I ever did in this format was actually about expat life. It was a year ago, or almost a year ago, more or less. I had just gotten married, and I was giving a little bit of a background of my story with my husband, and then also kind of addressing why or how I got here. So I'll definitely leave a link to that video in case you're interested in checking that one out, because that goes into a little bit more detail of like the background info. But just to like give a short summary, I studied abroad in 2015 and met my husband here. We were in one class together. We were both studying communications. We fell in love, and then we did long distance, and eventually I decided that I was going to come and join him after he finished school, I finished school. I was working for a little while, saving up some money, and then the time was right for me to be able to move here. I decided to move here because, well, it was something that I personally wanted. I wanted to have a new opportunity in a new country that was very exciting to me. Of course, I wanted to come and live with him as well. But it was also easier for me to come here than it was for him to come to the US. There's just a way that I was able to get a residency card that was just a lot simpler than he would have in the US. It's just very complicated in the US. So that's the whole spiel. That's how I'm here. And I've been here for 5 years. I moved in June of 2017. And yeah, I've been living here ever since. So that's the whole background. Another question was, what is it like to move to a different country, and is there anything that surprised you? And then I also have, like, what tips do you have for Americans moving abroad? And I feel like I might cover all of that in one. So I'll just address both of those questions. I think I had a little bit of an advantage with Belgium specifically because I did live here for, well, a short period of time, but I kind of experienced life, but I don't think it necessarily was the average everyday life that I'm currently living now. Because I was a student, you know, as a student, you live a completely different life than you do as a working adult. And then, yeah, being still a foreigner, not permanently residing here, I don't think I intertwined myself with, again, an average daily life. I was definitely traveling a lot and experiencing Europe at that same time. So it was very different, I think, moving here, being able to, moving here and trying to find a job. That was very different than living here as a student. So that was already something that maybe surprised me, just the small differences. But I think I was more mentally prepared just because I was familiar with the area. I moved to the same area basically that I was studying in, so I was very familiar with everything that was around me, which I think really helped. I think the one thing that I do want to just convey is that living an expat life is not an easy one. It's something that you have to adjust to. And I'm going to say things that might sound kind of scary or sad, but it's really not that. You need to have a level of independence as an expat. You need to be comfortable being alone, because the reality is at the very beginning, you will feel kind of alone. Even if you have, connections here. Like I had my husband, obviously, Raz was here, but then we also had some friends from school, his school, that I also knew, and then he had friends from, high school and that sort of thing. So there were people I was surrounded with, but, the connections that you have in your hometown are going to be a little bit stronger, obviously, than making, these connections that you have in a foreign country. So there's that. I think anybody who wants to move to another country needs to have a reason to do it. If you're moving for somebody else, you also need to have that other reason for yourself. So I really wanted to move here for me, and I wanted that opportunity for me as a person, as an individual. Not only did I want to move to be with my significant other, I wanted to experience something new, and I viewed it as an adventure. And I think if you don't have that motivation for yourself, if there's not something that's motivating you personally, intrinsically, then I think you're going to have a harder time, because you're going to be so reliant on the other person that you might be joining. But that's only one reason why somebody would move to another country. There's so many other reasons. Like if you're moving for work and that sort of thing, I think that's already a good motivating factor for you. But that's just something that I would really caution against is that you need to make sure that it's something that is just for you, because you don't really want to have like that resentment, or any resentment's probably a strong word, but it could build into that, you know, like you don't want to have that sort of dependence, because you want to be able to be motivated to discover a new life and create a new life for yourself. And you might not have that if you go into it for the wrong reasons. You'll eventually, you know, get into a routine and feel and have a lifestyle that you feel more grounded in, but I think it takes time. But that's with everything. It's moving anywhere. It's not moving just to another country. It's moving within your own country as well, to another city. So I would look at it like that, but just know that you might feel a little bit more lonely because you don't know the language, or maybe you do. If you already know it in advance, that's probably, you're going to be very, very prepared. I personally don't know French very well, so I can, you know, get by with my daily needs, but I don't think I'm intermingled in the culture in that way. So that's one thing that I'm kind of lacking. But it's not to say that you can't live in the country without really knowing, but you just, I guess, need to make an effort so you can kind of be familiar with some things, because a lot of stuff is in French or Dutch, that administrative stuff that's not very fun. So that's just another added layer that might be kind of frustrating or intimidating for you. You just need to be mentally prepared for that sort of thing. But then I also am of the belief that you can only prepare yourself so much. So if it's something that you really want to do, just jump in feet first, and you will make your way for sure. It's not impossible. How are you finding making friends in Belgium? From a fellow expat here in the countryside, struggling. Well, I definitely think that for me, the best way that I made friends, I had friends from our friend group from my husband. So, you know, he had friends here because he's been living here for a really long time. So that definitely helped me out. So I really did lean on him and his friend group. But it wasn't until I started working full time, when I found a job, that I made friends at work. So that was like mainly where I made those friendships. And I will say, as an expat, you kind of have to be okay with those one-on-one connections. You're not going to have like a huge friend group. I mean, maybe you will, but it just wasn't the reality for me. I didn't have the same size of a friend group as I did when I was in school or when I was in my hometown. I definitely had more valuable one-on-one connections with people than I did a huge group of people that I went out with all the time. Personally, that is something that I like better. I like one-on-one connections a lot better, but it's all up to the personality. So it's just also something to consider. So luckily that just worked out for me. But yeah, I also have a hard time trying to meet people outside of my daily routine. So that's something that I don't really have advice for, but I definitely feel you, especially if you're living in the countryside. That's a lot more challenging, I think, than an urban environment. So I don't know. It's the blind leading the blind here, I think. unfortunately, but I definitely feel for you. And I'm actually really surprised. I think there's a lot of people in the Well of Knits sphere who watch these videos and comment. I've seen a lot of expats. So if you're an expat, definitely leave a comment and give any suggestions that you might have, because that would be, it would be nice for all of us to kind of know, because I see you guys in the comments and I'm shocked at how many expats there really are. So it's nice if we have that little community there. So where do you and your husband envision your forever home? Is it in Belgium or America? And then I also got a question, will I ever move back to the US? So we are actually under an application. We are applying for my husband to have legal residency in the US, but that's a legal process that's just going to take a really long time. So we don't really know. The intention was to move back at some point, but who knows if that would have been permanent or not. Like forever home, I don't know. Things are just, we're not really in a place where we know solid plans at the moment, but what we will be doing now is just staying in Belgium, especially with the little baby coming. We just want a little bit more consistency. So we're just going to be staying here for the time being. But, you know, nothing in life is permanent. That's just my view. And even when I moved here, I was like, you know, it might not be a permanent thing. I didn't look at it that way. It wasn't like I was going to be in Belgium for the rest of my life. We could move to another European country. We don't know. We're open to anything, I think, is what I'm trying to get at. So, yeah, I'm not going to say one way or the other, but we do have the application going for the US. We'll see if anything happens with that, if it moves at all. I'm not going to hold my breath for it. But, you know, cross your fingers for us. That would be really appreciative, because it would be really nice to be able to move and be close to my family. But then again, you know, we're living that challenge of an international couple where his family is here in Europe and my family's in the US. So it's never going to be perfect, I think. We're always going to have to give a little bit. Someone's going to have to give a little bit. And for me right now, that's me having to be more long distance with my family, but hopefully in the future that will change. And it's never, I don't think it's going to always be an ideal situation. But yeah, to answer your question, don't really know where my future home is, but I'm content here right now. And I think that's what matters. So I think those were like the main expat questions. I'm not an expert in this. I've only done it for one purpose, and that's to join my partner. So I think we had a little bit of an easier time. I don't think I really faced a lot of the challenges that others would face if they're just going on their own. We did have to apply, which is kind of funny. We had to prove that we were together for 2 years. We had to prove the legitimacy of our relationship, sharing conversations, letters, ticket stubs, proving that we had, you know, visited each other throughout our relationship. So that's kind of funny. But in the end, because of all that information, I was able to get my residency card, no problem. So we might have had, you know, a little bit of an easier time, or I might have had an easier time coming over for whatever reason. But, you know, joining somebody else is, I think, probably a lot easier than trying to move on your own. So I'm sorry, I can't really give any advice past my personal experience, because I don't really know anything, and everything is different. Every country is different. So, yeah, it's really just a matter of where you're going, and you just got to do your research and trust the process, and yeah, be up for an adventure. But it's not as scary, I think, as it might seem. I think we are very strong beings. We're resilient creatures, and you can get through anything, you know. It could be hard at first, but you can get through it if you just put in the time and let yourself go with the flow, you will come out of it in the end. Wow, I think that could be applied to a lot of things in life. Okay, but before it gets too deep, I do have some other questions. Well, one question that I've been getting a lot, and I feel like I should finally address it, is what do I do for a living? A lot of questions. How do I feel about doing Well Loved Knits full time? I don't know if this person asked that question because she knew that I was doing Well Loved Knits full time, or if she just suspected that potentially that would happen in the future, like what I think about it, as in like would I do it? But yes, I am, I am doing Well Loved Knits as of this year full time, and I'm very excited about it. I'm very humbled about it. It's been crazy to have been able to make that decision and do this as my main source of income. And I can really only attribute that to you guys for showing up every week and sitting and knitting and chatting with me, or, you know, just catching up with whatever I'm working on. I really love making things. I love doing DIY projects. I love knitting, and I really love sharing that passion with you. So to be able to do that again as my main thing is mind-blowing, and it's still something that I can't believe I have the opportunity to do. So I want to say a huge thank you to you guys for that, because it is all because of you. So yes, I am doing this as my full-time thing, and it's perfect actually, because what I really want to do as my full-time thing is be a mother and raise my baby. And I feel like I have that opportunity to still contribute to my household, but then also have the free time and flexibility to be a stay-at-home mom. So that's the plan, and I will continue to do this, and that's why I want to come back as soon as I can and keep this connection with you guys. And yeah, just thank you guys so much for being here and supporting me, supporting the brands that support the channel, or, you know, purchasing one of my patterns. If you're a new knitter, I have beginner-friendly patterns if you're interested in that sort of thing over on my Etsy site. My website is a little in construction right now. There's just some weird things going on with it, but yes, I just appreciate all of the support that I've been getting this year. And I want to just, I can't express how thankful I am for it, and how, yeah, just jazzed I am that I get to do this sort of thing. And I hope the content that I've been providing is worthwhile for you and something that you really enjoy. That's definitely why we've been doing these knit and chats, because I know that's something that you guys really enjoy, and I really enjoy it too. So yes, Well Loved Knits, my vision for Well Loved Knits now is, you know, just a place where I can share this passion, talk about knitting, and, you know, have a calming space where we can all relax and be productive at the same time, and just share, yeah, our creative passion for making things. And, you know, instead of purchasing a wardrobe, maybe making it up, or whatever you use knitting for, sharing that kind of passion. Yeah, that's my vision. And also it's a great way for me to be able to contribute to my household while also giving that time, raising my son. And yeah, just very thankful for that. You know, it's not that I was keeping it a secret. It's just that I didn't really think that it was the most important aspect to kind of announce. I didn't really want to, I guess, shove it in people's face, or, you know, I just wanted to kind of play it cool. That's why I never really said anything, or kind of, I've been getting these questions a lot and I just kind of ignore them, because I didn't want that to turn into the main topic of the channel. I guess selfishly, I just knew that if I said that, everyone would be asking me, okay, well, how'd you do it? How do I get to do that? How do you make YouTube your full-time thing? And I don't have really any advice for it, because honestly, I just feel like I got here based on luck. I have some videos that did really well, and that's where my subscribers have come from. And doing these types of videos consistently, finding out what the majority of the audience really likes, that's just what I've been doing. It's really as simple as that. So not to kind of play it down, I'm not trying to play down this channel or, this success. I'm just also being a little realistic and thinking, that YouTube is kind of a fluke. Sometimes you are popular, sometimes you're not. Like some videos do really well, and then if you try and kind of follow that same recipe, that next video doesn't do well at all. So I really don't think that there's any secret to success that I can really share. But what I will say is this started as a hobby. I was doing this alongside my job, and I was just consistent. So the only advice that I can really give is be passionate about it. Share what you're passionate about. People will recognize that that's your passion and they'll be interested in it. And then, just be consistent as best as you can. I don't know if I've been very consistent recently, but just doing, showing up for the people that show up for you is the one way that you can definitely find some sort of success. But again, I think it's also just a matter of luck. So lastly, like I mentioned, I'm going to be having a baby. You guys know this. And I will be going away for a while. I don't know how long I will be on a break for, but I do foresee myself not really being able to have any kind of consistent content until the start of next year. I do think I want to pop in every once in a while, especially if I manage to knit up a lot of stuff. I will want to share that with you so that I don't have like a huge pile of knits to kind of catch you guys up on the next time I'm like in the next year. But I'm going to be going away. So I wanted to share some of my favorite knitting podcasts, just YouTube channels also in general, that I will personally be catching up with while I do breastfeeding sessions or whatever it is. So while I'm gone, I will still be watching these channels. I didn't really put together a list. I'm kind of just going to wing it. People that are on the top of my head that I've been watching recently, I think is who I'll bring up. But then if I, think of anything later, and I'm sure the list will be much longer than what I say, I'll leave a lot of links in the description for you guys to check out. But talking about knitting podcasts, one that I absolutely recommend is the Young Folk Knits podcast. So Casey from Young Folk Knits, she is a lot of fun to catch up with. I really love her life. I find her very inspiring. I would love to have a life similar to her. She is a beekeeper, a homesteader, a mother, a knitter. Like, she does a lot of things, and I think that's very inspiring to me. She has chickens, which I would love chickens in my life. I've always wanted a chicken coop. So one day when I have a backyard, I'm going to get a chicken coop. But so I really love her life. And I also think that the way she shoots some of her B-roll in her videos, she incorporates lifestyle things very nicely into her podcasts. I find that very inspiring. And I think that she's a good one to catch up with, very funny. And she's very good at color as well. I think she's known for this. It's not just me saying it, but she's kind of known in the community for having a really good eye for color. And she has definitely inspired me recently with one of her projects to do a little bit of color, to be different with color. Anyway, she's inspired me, and I think she might inspire you too. Another person that, I just watched recently, so she's top of mind. So it's High Fiber Knits. She also inspired a recent cast on of mine. And I'll get into all of that when I talk about fall knitting plans. I think that video will be up already, and I will leave that linked in the description too. So what I plan on knitting up this fall was definitely inspired by her as well. I really like the way she talks through her projects and talks through patterns and things. I think maybe that's because she's also a teacher. So I just appreciate listening to her, and the projects that she chooses and the colors that she chooses for those projects are also very inspiring. And she's from Canada. I don't know, maybe that's a plus for her as well. Have been really enjoying catching up with her also. Of course, and I don't even think I really need to bring this up because you guys already know her, but Andrea Mowry of Drea Renee Knits. I catch up with her. I'll knit if I want to every week. I just enjoy it. She answers questions. That's actually something good to kind of bring up, because if you're a newer knitter and you don't know about her already, she does a weekly podcast where she takes questions and answers things that are a little bit more technical. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you're interested in finding some help, definitely check her out. Because I get questions sometimes on videos and I don't feel, I guess I don't have the experience to kind of address those, and some things I just don't know. So I would definitely direct you to her and check her out. I also really love, who else do I really love? I really love We Grow Wild podcast. Martina from We Grow Wild. She is based in Italy. She creates some very beautiful pieces, and she really loves her plant-based fibers. I'm in awe of her ranunculus collection, and I would love to knit up a ranunculus. I'm very close to casting one on, to be honest, because I'm probably the only knitter who hasn't done it. That's not true. So I really love her for her plant-based fibers, and she's just really good with color as well. I mean, all of the colors, everybody is very unique, I think, in their style, and that's why I love all of them separately. All the people I've mentioned so far, when I say that they are really good with color, they choose things that just I wouldn't choose. So I find that difference very inspiring. So she's definitely, We Grow Wild is definitely much more earthy and down to earth. And she just has a very natural take on knitting, and I really appreciate that. I, of course, really love Creabea and Knitting Traditions. So Rebecca from the Creabea Knitting Podcast and Inga from Knitting Traditions. I feel like you might already know those podcasts as well. Those are some very prolific knitters. I'm sometimes kind of jealous on how fast they are with their knits, but they just work through so many projects, and I kind of live vicariously through them as a knitter sometimes with the projects that they decide to take on and work up and finish very, very quickly. So definitely worthwhile to check out for inspiration, because I feel like you will get all the inspiration and all the motivation to knit up projects, because you just see how easy they make it look, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna do that too. Knitted by Florence, or Handmade by Florence, that's a new podcast that I just came across, and I really like her because of her minimal aesthetic, but then it's also, she mixes minimalism, I think, with very complex knits. Not very complex knits, but more complex. She mixes minimalism and complexity in a really nice way, and I would just really like her style. I don't know where she's based. I don't know much about her. I'm still trying to learn a little bit, but I would definitely recommend her because she creates some very beautiful projects, and I really love, again, her color choices, but for a completely different reason, for a more minimal effect. I love Heather and Hops, Kat from Heather and Hops. She is a very peaceful person to catch up with, and she creates some very unique things. And she just is so unapologetic in her knitting and what she loves, and I really love that. And as far as non-knitting podcasts go, well, okay, hold on. Of course, there are a couple of podcasters that I love to catch up with, but they're not posting as frequently as some of the ones I previously mentioned. So that's Merryweather Knitting, Gabriella from Merryweather Knitting. She just had a baby not too long ago. Mel from Big Little Yarn Co. She also had a baby earlier this year, and she just posted a knitting podcast. I don't know how long she's gonna, or how frequently she's gonna start posting now, but worthwhile. And Emma from Woolly Mammoth Fiber Co. She is also a yarn dyer. So Big Little Yarn Co. Mel from Big Little Yarn Co. and Emma from Woolly Mammoth Fiber. They are both yarn dyers, but they do knitting podcasts every once in a while. And yeah, they're a great place to look for yarn. But then also they create some really beautiful projects too. So that's a pretty good list. Like I said, I will kind of fill that out if I think of any other people that I regularly catch up with. And there's definitely more, because I definitely subscribe to a lot more people than what I've mentioned. But also, if you're not interested in knitting podcasts, or if you're interested, I should say, in things that are not knitting related as well, some other accounts that I really, really enjoy, two that come to mind about that create a really peaceful atmosphere and are on more of the natural side. They really showcase the beauty in nature and slow living, and those are two accounts that I just really appreciate for that. The cinematic quality is fantastic as well. So the first one would be the Cottage Fairy. She is a writer and like a fairy tale writer, as well as a painter or a drawer. And she just creates some very beautiful, very cinematic videos each week. And the topics that she covers, I think, are really, you stop and reflect. It's really nice to reflect with her on certain topics. So I would recommend that one. And then also Girl in Calico. She definitely shows a more natural side of living, a more traditional side of living. And yeah, how to live in nature and create a home. And I find it very inspiring as well. Especially, she's really good for fall as well, and Christmas. I love watching her around that time of year because of just the visuals in her videos. Very calming, very peaceful, and very thought-provoking. That is what I'm trying to, that was the word I'm trying to think of, thought-provoking. Those two, they have great commentary that just makes you think. And I come out of those videos feeling very inspired and grounded and down to earth, to be more down to earth and to be more natural. That is what I use those accounts for. So yes, I will leave all of that linked in the description so that maybe you find some accounts that inspire you, not just knitting related, but otherwise as well. But I think that's where I'm going to leave it for now. This might have been all over the place, but I did want to get this last knit and chat in before I go. I wanted to connect with you guys because I'm going to miss you guys a lot and miss doing these weekly chats and catching up and that sort of thing. I think it's definitely going to be something I'm going to look forward to being able to do when I get established into a routine. I kind of figure things out. Wish me luck on that. But yes, thank you guys so much for being here. Like I said, I would not be here without you. I would not be able to post every week without you guys, and I just really appreciate your support. It really does mean a lot to me, and I hope we will continue this connection when I return. I don't think this is the last time you're gonna hear from me, but who really knows? I do just wanna say thank you guys so much for all the well wishes as well. I've been getting those, and just for spending some time with me. I really do appreciate it. If you like this video, definitely give it a like. That really helps me. And then maybe subscribe to stick around. Like I said, I will go on a little bit of a break, but you'll know if you subscribe when I come back, and we'll connect then. So thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you in the next one, if there is a next one. Bye.